Hi everybody, it's Lynnea. Today I have some fun inspiration for you using Rina Designs, Neon Electropop Flock, and Glitz glitter gels. And I'm going to be mixing them together to create tone-on-tone backgrounds. So I have all four colors of the flock and Glitz glitter gel. And then I also have the Photo Play Dragon Dream stamp set. And the stencil I'll be using is the Miss Ink Backgammon 2 stencil. And then I also have the Whimsy Stamps Notched Squares dies. So I'm going to start out with my die cutting. And I've taken one of the larger dies from that Notched Square die set. And I'm going to just cut each of the pieces of flock directly from the package. I'm not transferring them to cardstock or anything, just running that die through my machine like I would a piece of paper. Now I'm going to do some stenciling. So I have that Backgammon 2 stencil and I've sprayed the back of it with pixie spray, just a really light spray. I let that sit for about a minute. And then I'm going to press this onto my die cut flock pieces. This is like a medium level of intricacy stencil, so I'm just going to make sure to run my fingers and press down on each of those lines so that they don't shift while I'm stenciling. I have the Poppin' Pink flock and the Poppin' Pink Glitz glitter gel. I'm going to be doing tone on tone with each of these backgrounds. So I'm just going to use a stencil pal and scrape that Glitz glitter gel across my stencil. Now because my lines are vertical, I'm going to make sure that I use a vertical motion with my stencil pal because I want to make sure that my stencil doesn't move. Once I get a smooth application of the Glitz glitter gel on here, I'm going to use just a palette knife and make sure I put all that excess back into the jar so I can use that for later. And then I'm going to peel away my stencil from my flock piece. And you're going to see there's all kinds of glitz glittery goodness on top of this textured flock. So there's a lot of texture right in this one piece here. Any of the extra that's kind of hanging off, I'm just going to use my palette knife and just scrape that away. So I'll show you how to do this one more time. I just cleaned my stencil with a baby wipe. I didn't even take it over to the sink to really clean it. And then I just pressed this back onto my second piece of flock. This one is the Screamin' Green. I didn't even need to respray it. It already had some stick on the back. I do want to mention that if your Glitz glitter gel, when you open it up, if it has that kind of like creamy layer on top, just give it a good mix. And that's just because the glitter separates from the gel and kind of sinks to the bottom. All you have to do is stir it up and it's good as new. So I'm using a stencil pal again to spread that Glitz glitter gel across my die cut flock background. Then I'll just peel that stencil off and you'll see that tone on tone Screamin' Green background. So I repeated the process with the Orange Glow and the Hello Yellow and set them aside to dry while I did some stamping and coloring of my images. My images are from the Photo Play Dragon Dream stamp set, and I stamped them in my Misty, and I kept my stamps in position. You didn't see that on screen, but you will in a minute, and you'll see why I do that. So I'm going to color these with Copic markers, and I was going for monochromatic cards, but I didn't want to have a whole lot of color on the dragons. So I decided to make the dragon themselves white, and I did that with a C0 marker. And then I have C2 just for the eyes as well. But just by adding that C0 marker around where I wanted shadows, you're going to get that illusion of white, but even white has shadows, so I wanted to have that depth of color there. I'm going to bring in color on the scales and the little tummies of each of the dragon. So I left a little bit of the coloring in here. I know you can't really see very well because my hand is in the way, but for the green, I'm using YG06 as my light and YG25 as my dark. And I do believe that I keep all of my caps up in that kind of right-hand-ish corner so that you can see the colors that I use. All I'm doing is just laying down a light color, and then I'm going in with my dark to add some shadows. And I don't even blend it out because I wanted to have a good deal of depth. For my yellow, I used Y15 and Y17. Again, just doing the wings and the scales, the little tip of the tail, and then the stomachs on all of the dragons with the various colors. And I did pick my colors to match my colors of flock and Glitz glitter gel so that I could really have that nice monochromatic card scheme. For orange, I used YR04, YR07, and I am coloring with Copics, but you can watercolor, you can use a different kind of marker, use whatever you have. I just went through and looked at my swatch chart and chose some colors that I thought would match for my backgrounds. So you can use whatever coloring medium you are most comfortable with. I'm just going to finish up here with my pink. I used RV13 and RV04, and then I'm going to take these panels and pop them back into my MISTI. I didn't take my stamps out, so they are still positioned right where I had them. And as long as you put your paper back in the exact same position, you'll be able to do this little stamping trick for yourself. So I find that when I color, even if I use a crisp black ink to stamp with, when I color with markers, that black kind of dulls back. So what I like to do is pop these images back into my MISTI and stamp them again. And that really brings out those defined black images. I'm going to use some of the 0.5-inch purple tape to tape the Dragon Dreams dies in place and cut these out. This is the new formula of purple tape, and I love it because it has never once torn my paper. You can see I've been using it a lot. My roll is almost gone. All you need to do is just give it a little bit of pressure, and that's it. Just run those dies through your machine and you're not going to have any tearing of your paper. So all 4 of my backgrounds are done. You can see how there's that texture from the flock transfer sheets that I die cut, as well as the Glitz glitter gel on top. So lots of texture and lots of sparkle on these cards. I cut my card bases to be 5 by 5 inches. So these are oversized square cards, but you could still put this in a 5 by 7 envelope and you wouldn't have to pay any extra postage. Or you could go ahead and just get a square envelope and have a super fun card in the mail. Once I'm done figuring out how I want these cards to be arranged, I'm going to start adhering them onto my card bases and putting these cards together. I'm using iCraft Ultra Bond liquid adhesive and just gluing the flock and glitz background piece onto my card base. I'm going to flip that card over and just give it a good press so that I know that's going to adhere straight and firm onto my card base. And then I'm going to start adding the dragons and the sentiment on top. I have a little trick. I like to lay out my images. This time there's just the one image and the sentiment, but I lay it out how I want it to be, and then I take a little piece of purple tape and I adhere those images together so that I can add foam to the back together and I won't mess up where I have my images arranged. I'm using the iCraft 3D foam squares. These are my favorite foam squares when I want to have quite a bit of dimension. These are about twice as high, I feel twice as high as a regular foam square. And since this is a pretty simple card, I wanted to have a lot of dimension from these images, so that's why I went with the iCraft 3D foam squares. I'm going to use my T-square ruler just to make sure that that sentiment is in the right place. And once I have that done, I'll give that a good press. And I'm going to repeat the process with all 4 card backgrounds, making sure that I have the correct dragon with my the same colored card background. So this is the last one here. I used those iCraft 3D foam squares, got that all positioned on my card, give it a good press, and then all 4 of my cards are done. These were really simple to create. I hope you like all the texture and this fun monochromatic design. So I'll give you a close-up of each one. This is the Poppin' Pink, both the flock and the glitz, the Orange Glow, Hello Yellow, and then last but not least is Screamin' Green. There's lots of texture from these flock transfer sheets with the Glitz glitter gel on top. This is a fun little set of cards, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching me make these and that this gives you some inspiration for mixing and matching flock and glitz together in your craft room. I'll see you guys later. Bye! If you guys liked this video, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, and here are some other videos that I thought you might like.